So I've made quite a few changes since the last time we saw this tank. I did a lot of modifications on the gun, did quite a bit of modification on the hull, not a whole lot. Let's start with the hull. So I wanted to fill in some of the spaces. Now, you know, normally this little area here would be on the back, and it would be filled in by this little angle. But we just had an empty space, so I grabbed some parts, just some bits from the bin that would fit. Then I took some stock plastic to fill in the empty space above, and you know, it just kind of, it gives it a machine look, like kind of mechanical look, like maybe it belongs there. And I think that once we kind of sand it down a little bit and paint, that will look very natural, like, you know, that was meant to be there without this big open space. I attached, you know, some of the towing points on the front and the back. A lot of the real military vehicles that I've worked with, you know, had these tow connections in the front and back, so I put them on. Gave its main tow hitch. Again, took some more spare parts just to fill up the empty space that was back here. Connected. This was the power connection from Acadian heavy weapons set that actually goes to a las cannon, but I made it kind of like a hose that connects maybe from the fuel drum to the engine. Who knows? Whatever. But it, you know, it fills up some space, draws the eye, and then just again some extra bits there. Took that little exhaust vent that normally gets stuck somewhere on the side over there or on the back, and added it down lower. Just you know, built this up a little bit. Made some stuff going on. Gave it a little extra, you know, realism. Kind of, you know, stuff is meant to be there. I wanted to put more. Honestly, I wanted to put a lot more on there, but it wouldn't fit. This guy right here is a naming plate from a Baneblade, so we can actually print out a decal with the tank's name or ID number or something over there if we want later on. But this is looking pretty good. As for the turret, so I decided the autocannon from the, I don't want to get it right, the Exterminator was just way too big. It was kind of taking too much space, too much attention from everything. So I took the autocannon from also Acadian heavy weapon set and cut the barrel off and put it on there, and I think that has a much nicer look to it. You know, an autocannon is an autocannon all the way around. I decided to, using stock plastic, build a little brace that would connect it to the actual main gun to give it some sort of support, so that kind of looks like it belongs there a little bit now. It's not just sticking out there supporting itself up. Just for the sake of building the realism in terms of we see how the gun can actually function there. Here's the ammunition for the autocannon, and then to hold that and house it, I actually I took some plastic strip and I built a little bit of a housing that would go around it and connect that ammunition to the cannon itself. I have yet to see, besides the Exterminator cannon, any kind of autocannon that holds the ammunition internally, so this kind of fits with the way the autocannon would work on multiple other vehicles, and you still have the logic of how they could quick change that drum out for another one. So I need to do a little bit of filling there to make this look like one coherent piece. It kind of widened up the piece a little bit, just a tiny bit more than I wanted it to, but not too much. What I need to do now is I am going to have to, I mean, I guess I don't have to, but from my eye, I need to build out the back of this turret a little bit, because I think it's just way too front heavy right now. I don't like the way it looks like that. So today I'm going to be working on that, and then detailing out the turret a little bit, adding some pieces onto it. I mean, I think the hull is just about done. I don't think we need to do a whole lot more to that. We'll add some smoke launchers to the turret. I don't like this big empty void space. I'd like to do something with it, but we'll add a few more items to it. Again, more going on, more for the eye to jump around to. But the big thing I want to do now, I had already added that. That's a piece from a Valkyrie. But I think we're going to just forget that's there, and we're going to build out around it a little bit and make that turret have more of a shape coming out to counterbalance the heavy look of the gun. I knew from the beginning I wanted this thing to have a plow. I wasn't sure how it was going to look, but I also like the look of the older Games Workshop plows, that they resemble the old World War II hedgerow plows that tanks had, with the big teeth, the spikes sting off the bottom. Unfortunately, I had one, it didn't have the right look to it, so I wanted to make another one. So I took a standard plow from Tank Accessory Kit, and I built that hedgerow look using, of all things, just what I had lying around. This is a Taco Bell fork. Yeah, a Taco Bell fork, and it became the tines on the plow. I used, if you take a look, these are the outside edges of the fork, and these are the regular inside ones, so it's a combination of two forks. I glued them on, and then I wanted to make sure they were really sturdy, so I used some Squadron green putty to build up a little bit more there, and I'm going to have to sand that down. So now the real question is going to be exactly, where do we mount it on the tank? We can't put it all the way recessed because then it hits the tracks, but something that kind of fits just like that sort of works with the configuration we've set up where we're protecting the tracks. We've got armor going up the frontal slope there. The plow protects what little of the track is showing in front, and it kind of gives a nice little, I will destroy anything in my path. I do also like the clean look, though, of the tank without the plow, so I might magnetize it so that it can go with or without. I like the look both ways, though, of having the plow, of not having the plow, but I wanted it to look more mean and menacing than the standard plow, so I decided to add that on there, and I'm really happy. It's an experiment with the fork, but the fork worked. So what I'm going to do now is to save time and make this easier, rather than sitting there with sandpaper or sanding block or whatever, I'm going to use Dremel, and I'm going to just sort of smooth out the bottoms of each one of these and blend it in, and then I'll do some detail sanding with a sanding stick in between. So like I said, basic work with a Dremel, and then I'll just take a sanding stick to sort of even it all out and level it, and then detail it so it doesn't look so sloppy. I want it to look like they were welded maybe by the crew in the field. Like, this is obviously, it's not standard. All right, so here's a more nicely shaped, still has that rough kind of look to it, like, field welded by the crew, maybe by the maintenance shop, but still neatened up a bit. I think that looks pretty nice. Professional, Professional plow. So the plow is done. I feel like the thing I really want to tackle next is to build out that turret, to see where I want it to go. I know I need it. I need to feel like it's a longer turret. And I think really what I want to do is just, I've got two nice, perfect parallel surfaces right here to build off of, and just have it come out a little bit. I also like having them extended, though, a little bit from the rest of the turret, so I might use that right there to build off of. I think that's actually going to be exactly how I'm going to plan it. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to get rid of this piece that I already put on there, but that shouldn't be too hard to cut off. A couple different ways that I could go about this. The easiest, and that requires the least amount of planning, is to just build this rear surface out till I have the length that I want, and then build something on the sides to reach that. If I really want to do the engineering thing, I can start building from the sides and then building braces. I think for now, though, what I'm going to do is figure out exactly how far back I want this turret to reach, and go with that method. So I'm going to use, again, the rest of the tank as a measurement so I can pick something that looks even. And I think to about the winged skull is about where I want it to be. So we're looking at something in the neighborhood of, let's see, it's not about yay big. Will do nicely for what I want for the length I'm looking for. To decided to try out this glue. I see a lot of people online using this, and they seem very happy with the Revell Contacta. So let's give that a shot. I'm not sure exactly how different it is from any other glue I've used, but, you know. We'll try it out and see. I'm also going to use some of this square plastic to sort of just to brace the very thin wall piece that I'm building. And then I'll use this little plastic piece to brace it up and hold it. That'll help me square it off. That'll also give it a little bit of support. I would like everyone to know that I'm doing this without my glasses on, so I'm very proud of myself right now. Okay. Let's get another side going. Getting it all squared is really important, because when we go to put the kind of rear plate on, we want it to have a nice 90-degree flat connection area. You know, again, this is all like, it's just kind of like figure putting rebar inside of a wall we're building, or reinforcing a wall. This is a structure. This is not what we're building. So we're going to put stuff on the outside that is going to make this look much more imaginative and fancy. This is just basically the shell of what we want this extended turret to look like. So I'm installing just a couple little braces to support all of that. Of course, I'll trim off all this extra stuff when I'm ready to start building everything out. But let's see. So right now that gives me the extra kind of distance on the turret. Now I'm going to have to also work to build up the bulkiness a little bit, because I don't want it to be just that little skinny part sticking out. So we'll start from about there where the turret sits, and we'll build outwards. We'll just make sure that that's not going to interfere with anything that the turret might rotate and hit. It should be fine. I think this glue is just a little bit easier to work with when we're just kind of tacking the corners down like this, for the purposes that we're using right now. And now there are much fancier, more professional ways to scratch build, you know, where you actually take measurements and cut everything to size ahead of time. A lot of times when I'm just trying to figure out what I'm doing as I go, like if I have a battle plan and I know exactly what shape I'm going for, that's a great way to do it. A lot of times when I'm just building as I go, though, and I'm kind of just letting the creativity shape what it is, this is how I do it. I build as I go. And I have no idea what the final product is going to look like. I have a rough idea of where I want to get to, but, you know, I just got to sort of let it happen as it happens. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. I'm just letting it happen as it happens. I sort of know what I'm looking for, and I'm just going to go bit by bit and kind of let the pieces sort of dictate where it all goes and how it all ends up, if that makes any sense. And I'm hoping this glue is dry right here, so I should be able to snip this off. Once again, I'm just trying to build up a box shape here that we can work off of. This is not at all what I intend the final product to look like. Basically building the frame to build the house on, so to speak. So I don't mind if I get fingerprints in the glue here or anything else right now, because all of this I intend to have covered up with other stuff. Now this being a very flexible strip, that's going to let us kind of mold it to whatever shape we want, without having to do, you know, really crazy things to it. So I theoretically could just glue it down straight to there and then trim the edge, and then we just fill the sides in. And I think that's kind of the look that I'm going to end up going for to match that profile that I want. I actually did a lot of work forgetting the camera was not on. So I started to build out that basic form to where I wanted. I decided I was going to put some little tiny racks on the sides. you know, just little shelves where the crew members could maybe put stuff that they want to haul around. So I'm working on that. This is as far out as the turret's going to go, but I think it's a good counterbalance to the length of the gun. And then I'm going to continuously, you know, build up that structure on the bottom, and then we'll deck it all out with some other stuff. I still need to fill in just that little gap over there, so I need to figure out the right angle and then cut some strips. But it's gonna, I think it's really all gonna come together finally. It's gonna look pretty cool. And then we can fill, sand a little bit, and then start putting some, you know, extra bits on there to make it look really cool. And you know, this thing is just about ready for painting and everything. Really is, it's all, I mean, once the turret work is done and we put a couple other details here and there, it's ready. So a little bit more work and it's all starting to come together. Not bad, huh? I guess the best way to judge it is by looking at it from the side. Now I think I'm going to take that off and maybe put another one on somewhere, so I can build this up a little bit. But for these storage racks, this is a little thick and it's going to take up a lot of space. I have some very thin round rod that I think I'm going to use to put in its place and just make some basic wire frame that goes around it. And then finish off the bottom a little bit. Then we'll be ready to actually build up onto it and start making it look like something besides just white plastic. Alright, I changed locations so I could watch Rogue One while I was building. And yeah, I did a lot more work off camera again. I just kind of went a little crazy building. So, but I have the final additional turret shape, and I used some real thin plastic to sort of build those storage bins on the side in the style of, you know, modern main battle tanks. And I have finished off the bottom the way I want. Everything looks, I mean, a little more finishing and refining right there, but this is basically the way I want it. So I have the larger turret. I have the shape is down now. I just, you know, pick and choose some accessories and stuff from different spare parts to make it look more Warhammery. So I'm gonna go through just a bunch of boxes I have with spare parts. This is a whole bunch of Valkyrie stuff. I have, this is Chimera and Leman Russ parts. I have a whole big box just stuffed with different parts from Bane blades, and I've got some Space Marine boxes and all sorts of stuff. Just parts, spare parts of different kits that I haven't used yet, that I haven't thrown in like a bit spin or anything like that. And I'm just going to look for things that look interesting, that can change the general appearance. Not necessarily the shape, because the shape is good. The shape is right where I want it. But just will give it a little bit more life. Definitely want to give it some smoke launchers. I want to give it a searchlight. Hunter Killer Missile, which, you know, I think according to the newest codex, I haven't seen it with Leman Russ, but then again, we're so off of a codex right now anyway. But I love the way a Hunter Killer Missile looks on the side of a turret, so I'm going to have to go to the box for that. I've just got a slew of different Hunter Killer Missile options there, and all sorts of other stuff we can put on this thing. Okay, so where we're at with the movie is the Death Star just destroyed Jeddah. Where we're at with the tank is I've decided I want to use this old school searchlight, and so I just cut down these little posts on the mount. I'm going to put the mount, I'm going to give it a bigger mount so that it fits nicely on the side of the tank there. But what I want to do is I want to affix it to a strip of plastic, and then I'm going to use other sheets of plastic, just make it look a little fancier, build some structure around it, and then I'm going to use a nice thin piece of tubing to kind of craft a little wire, like a power cable coming from the light back into the tank. So, you know, the first step is to mount this like so, and then we'll use some other strips and everything to build a little structure around it to hold it nice and still. And then, you know, we'll see the final product with the cable and everything. Alright, so basically the only thing I have left to do is decide is, am I going to put a commander in there and then the hatch? But other than that, you know, I can do that last minute. Other than that, everything on this is done. So very, very happy with where we're at. Got a cool searchlight there with all sorts of little detail around it. I've got my missile launcher with all sorts of cool scratch detail built around that. Look at my little scratch-built racks on the back. A little radio antenna. This is super happy. New placement for the smoke launchers that I've never done before, but I really like the way they look. This is going to be super sweet. Whether it plays in a game or not, whether it just sits on display, it's awesome looking. Oh, and then the mount for the heavy stubber is pretty awesome, I have to say. So, just an awesome project. Really enjoying it. Can't wait to get it painted and weathered up a little bit. And with that little extension on the rear of the turret, it just has such a great look. Looking at it heads on, when it's kind of, the turret's pointing, it really balances out the long look of that cannon. It really needed that. I'm really happy with it. So now I guess it's time to put a commander in there, because I think I do want a commander. Put a hatch open behind him, and then get this thing primed and ready to paint. Going handheld for just the last few minutes here, but I did a little kit bashing of various parts to find a commander that I really liked. Camera's having a little bit of trouble right now, but there he is, holding his binoculars, just kind of chilling out. Everything's ready to go on this, so I'm going to make one last look around to see if there's any more filling, sanding, anything else that needs to happen on this particular vehicle before we call it good and ready to paint. But I think that'll be, with the length of this video that it's at right now, we'll call it good for part 2. Hope you guys liked this one, and I hope you will join me for the third and final part 3, where we will paint and weather this guy up and get it tabletop ready. Alright? See you then.